lost in thought, where the calm runs deep. From the moment I saw you, my world went dim for you.
So this is a big video today because Govee just released their highly anticipated Cobb LED strip that has some incredible specs that we'll get into here shortly. And at least for me, equally exciting is their brand new Strip Light 2 Pro. This will be the upgrade to what has been, in my opinion, the best plug-and-play LED strip on the market for the past 2 years, the M1. To kick things off, let's start out with the new Cobb LED kit. Opening things up, you have the welcome information, the lights that are housed in a very shallow silicone tubing with an attached controller, some wire management clips as well as an end cap if you want to cut these to size, and a 24-volt 2-amp plug. Now, if you're new to the LED game, Cobb stands for chip on board, which refers to how the red, green, and blue chips are attached to the PCB. This technique allows for some incredible dense strips, and in the case of Govee, they have a staggering 1,260 LED beads per meter. I have the 3-meter kit in hand, but this will also be available in 5-meter lengths. The silicone housing is extremely flexible and soft, making it perfect for installing around inner or outer corners, with the back having a very tacky, sticky tape for mounting. Also on the back, you'll see faint black lines every 8 centimeters that indicates the cut points in case you need to trim these down to size. Obviously, I was curious to see more, so I went ahead and cut off the end section. And this is where you can use the included cap to cover up what you just cut off so it still looks nice. Now, once I was able to cut the lights out of the diffuser, this is what you're left with. I did already mention to Govee that they should also offer this Cobb strip as a standalone product like it is now, since the silicone tubing does add a good amount of size, which might not always work for every use case. So a lot more to discuss with this later, but let's transition to the Strip Light 2 Pros. Opening things up, you have the lights, some mounting clips, the controller, a 24-volt 3-amp plug, and the welcome information. Taking a closer look at the lights, these do look very similar to the M1s in terms of design and size. However, a few of the biggest differences with this updated model is the addition of both a warm and cool white LED, plus a completely redesigned processing chip that Govee says is able to deliver more accurate colors as well as smoother animations. They're calling this technology Lumen Blend that I'll be going over later. Another huge announcement is that this will not only be available in 2 and 5-meter lengths, it will also be sold as a 10-meter long kit, which is awesome to see. And they definitely wanted this to be better suited for custom installs, so they have cut points every 4 inches compared to 20 inches on the original M1. Now, I had a crazy idea. I wanted to definitely test out these new products, but I also wanted to compare how they looked with some of Govee's other popular items in order to get a better feel for the strengths and weaknesses of each. I initially thought that I would bite the bullet and put everything directly on my wall and deal with the consequences when the time came to take them down. Instead, I went to my hardware store and got some small trim pieces and proceeded to use my finishing gun to mount 30 meters of trim to my wall. The idea is to put all the LED products on these sections, and since the finishing nails are so small, when it's time to take everything down, a quick coat of paint will fill everything in and my wall will look brand new. Once the trim pieces were all mounted, it was time to move on to the fun part. On the very top, I'll be installing a naked M1. I personally would never do it this way, but I know a lot of people will undoubtedly throw up a bare LED strip and call it a day, so this is for you. And to compare, right below, I'll use the new Pro version, again just using the bare strip and nothing else. For the next 2 spots, I'll be testing out how the M1 and the new Pro version look using what will probably be the most popular way these strips are installed, which is using a diffuser channel. Muzada just launched a brand new spotless channel that officially overtakes their U108 as my favorite. It's a little bit wider, so you get a bigger neon effect, and without having to add any height to the product, they were able to significantly reduce how thick the diffuser is compared to the U108, meaning things will get much brighter in comparison. To mount these to the trim pieces, I'm going to use the same double-sided sticky tape that I used to attach the diffuser channels to my gaming desk, and that was over a year ago and things haven't budged. And for the corners, I'll just be using my miter saw with a standard blade it came with to make the 45-degree cuts, and you can see how nicely they come together. From here, I'll be putting up the channels, and that was a very quick process. I did contemplate using the included mounting hardware, but opted for the sticky tape method since it allows for more manual control when lining up the individual pieces. Moving down, I'll be installing the 3-meter Cobb strip that we just unboxed. Next will be their neon desk lights that I recently did a video on and came away very impressed. This is their 3-meter kit, but you can also get it in 5 meters. And finally, at the very bottom on my actual baseboards, I'm putting their 5-meter LED strip with cover. This is their all-in-one kit that includes a LED strip, plus the plastic diffuser channels and covers with both inner and outer angle connection pieces. I also did a video on this that you can check out for a more detailed breakdown and install if you're interested. Now before moving on, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Aura. So this is me signing up for their free 14-day trial, and during this setup process, one of the many things they do is scan the internet for data brokers that have your personal information. These data brokers then make a fortune selling your information to spammers, scammers, and other entities that want to know more about you. Now, Aura was able to find 30 such instances of my personal information being in the hands of these companies. Then, with one click, Aura sends out a notice to have my information removed from their systems, which they are legally required to do when asked. Their all-in-one platform offers antivirus protection, credit monitoring, credit lock, financial transaction alerts, secure VPN, identity protection, parental controls, 24/7 US-based customer service, and much, much more. I'll leave a link in the description for you to start your own free 14-day trial, so please make sure to check them out. Thank you all so much, and now back to the video. So to recap, I have from top to bottom a bare original Govee M1 followed by their new Pro version that's also bare. Then I have another original M1 in the new Musada diffuser channel, and right below that is the new Pro strip that's also in a Musada diffuser profile. Next is Govee's all new Cobb lights, followed by their neon desk lights, and finally their LED strip with diffuser cover. And yes, this was a lot of work, however, I've always wanted to do this type of side-by-side comparison to see how things stack up against each other. Let's start things out with cold white. Right off the bat, you can see some major separation between the different strips, with the new Pro lights and the Cobb lights clearly performing better in this area. Now the neon desk lights and Govee diffuser lights, which are the bottom two, are, as expected, struggling in this category, as would any strip that's relying only on the RGB spectrum to produce white. The M1 does have a dedicated white LED that's able to help out, but still relies a little on the RGB spectrum, and even though it's not as bad as the bottom two, it still can't compete with the Pro or Cobb strips. Moving on to warm white, and this is where it gets a little bit more challenging to see what's going on, since orange can mimic a warm white and camera limitations. So what I'm seeing in person is that the M1 is slightly more warm than the new Pro version. They actually both look pretty good, and this will come down to if you like a more orange warm white or a slightly more cool warm white. For myself, I like the Pro version of the white since I think it looks a little bit more natural, but that's just me. Now the Cobb strip is tricky because in person it's about the same temp as the Pro, but on camera, since it's significantly brighter than everything else in the wall, it does appear to be a different shade. But again, in person, it's more similar to the Pro, but just a lot brighter. And as for the bottom two lights, they actually aren't that bad, but still lack the more natural feel of the others. Next, I quickly did a finger sketch to turn on the least amount of lights that each strip allows for. This is known as independent control, and just like most 12 and 24 volt products in the market, you're not able to control every single light, but instead they're able to be controlled in groups. The M1 and the new Pro allow for every 6 lights to be grouped together, that equates to about 4 inches. The Cobb lights are able to be controlled in a slightly smaller group, which equates to 3 inches. The neon desk lights are a higher density strip, so 6 lights on that product is also 3 inches, and the Govee with diffuser is again 6 lights and 4 inches. I'll now send each of these sections on a clockwise journey to see if, on a very simple and basic animation, I can tell any difference in performance. And after staring at things for a couple minutes, I thought everything looked about the same, so next I made a meteor animation in their DIY option and set every strip to that. And for this one, I definitely noticed how the Pro strip had a more dynamic fade on the end of the meteor that I thought looked better than any of the others. Here's the same meteor animation at night where you can again get a feel for the differences. Now I know many people are going to be asking what's the brightest option, and here I have everything set to cool white at 100% with no other light source turned on in the room. This obviously oversaturates the camera and you really can't get a feel for the difference, but just know that the Cobb LED lights is by far the brightest of all the options. In fact, it's the only one of these that you could get away with using as a primary light source, and with a CRI of above 90, it's actually going to look pretty good. Switching over to warm white, and again, not really able to see the difference on camera, but the Cobb is by far the best. And this is true for every single color, so if you're looking for the brightest option, Cobb is 100% the way to go. I decided I wanted to see how much of a difference the strip would make in my staircase going down to my basement. And since I'm just testing these out, I'm not too worried about making it look nice. I'll quickly nail up a trim piece using the same method as the other strips and then stick up the Cobb lights to the section. As you can see, it definitely makes a huge difference. Right now it's on warm white, and after playing around with the temperature, I thought what looked best was probably around 4500 Kelvin, which is what you're seeing now. I'll turn the lights on and off so you can see the difference it makes in case you're thinking about maybe using these in certain areas of your house as the primary light source. Moving on, I always like to do the 1% test. If I want to have these in perhaps a bedroom used for ambient lighting as I go to sleep, the dimmer the better in that situation. And by far, the new Pros did best in this test, with the M1s and the desk lights coming in a close second. The Cobb and bottom light strip had to be at least 3 times as bright as the Pro, so definitely something to keep in mind if your main use case would be for extremely low ambient lighting at night. Another thing Govee said is that the overall color accuracy on the new Pros are better. I bumped up the brightness a little bit, and with the color teal selected, you can see how the Pro kit does look a little bit more accurate, while the M1s and the desk lights are more on the blue side. The Cobb is again hard to capture on camera because it's so much brighter and gets washed out, but I would say that the Cobb is closer aligned with the M1 in terms of color performance than it is with the Pros. But honestly, in my opinion, they all look good, and I don't think this aspect would factor in much when deciding on what to get. Now, only on the new Pro Strip models will you find the Lumen Blend Effects tab, and this is actually pretty cool tech that Govee developed in-house. What their brand new 5-in-1 chip is able to do is simultaneously use both the warm and cool white diodes to replace part of the RGB color to achieve a better mix. So definitely make sure to check out the effects on the Lumen Blend tab if you end up getting this model. Let's talk a little bit more on effects. I set every light to the Aurora animation, and the pros were the best in my opinion, with the M1s and the Govee diffuser strip a close second. The Cobb and the desk lights were a little bit too choppy for my liking. Next, I set everything to Deep C, and again I thought the pros were the best, with the fading in and out a lot less jumpy than the others. And finally I did the ripple effect, and this was a tie for me between the pros and the M1s. Some of this is personal preference, however I have to think the majority of people like smoother animations versus choppy, and the pro is overall the best option in this category. So perhaps my favorite part of throwing up a bunch of Govee products is being able to play around with their DreamView functionality. I set up their DreamView music experience and I'll play a few of my favorite settings, and as a reminder I'll leave links to all the music in the description, so make sure to check that out if anything catches your ear.
Quiet streets where the night feels still. From the moment I saw you, my world went dim. For you, footsteps blend with the midnight air. Then easy, feel it grow in this silence.
Now to wrap things up, if you want to try using an LED strip as your main light source, or you mostly care about how bright things can get, then the Cobb lights are the way to go. However, for almost everything else, including color accuracy, animation performance, low lightability, and a 10-meter long kit option, the new Pro strips really check every box, and for a plug-and-play option, it packs a lot of bells and whistles. And I do hope they continue to sell the original M1 at a discounted price, because it actually still holds up pretty well in these comparisons, and for those who don't want to spend as much money, you're still going to be getting a good product. So that about does it for this one. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a blessed day.